My dog suddenly very attached to wife and won't leave her alone. Otis is 3. We adopted him at a year old from the shelter. He's always been very snuggly and my wife has always been his human, but recently he's been taking it to another level. Otis is a big black pit bull with docked ears and tail, yeah, we adopted him like that. We know he's a giant ball of blubber and love but other people don't, so we've been very careful to train him not to be scary, great manners, no jumping or barking etc. Basically this is very out of character for him. A week or two ago my wife got some sort of stomach bug. She was really nauseous and ill for about a week. Otis is very in tune with her emotions. We once got in a fight and she was upset. I swear he was staring daggers at me, and during this time didn't even want to leave her to go on walks. We thought it was adorable. Well, now my wife is feeling much better and his attachment hasn't gone away. It seems like he got used to her being home all day for that week and developed separation anxiety. My wife goes to the bathroom, he cries outside the door. She leaves for work, he mopes by the front door until she gets home. And when she gets home, all he wants to do is drape himself all over her. It's getting annoying. Well, 50% of the time it's annoying, 50% of the time it's cute. Then tonight on their walk through the park another dog ran up to her and Otis. Lots of people let their dogs run around off leash even though they're not supposed to. The moment it got near my wife, apparently Otis began to bare his teeth and growl. He has never done this. We're trying to figure out what's going on. If this is the start of an aggression issue, we'd like to nip it in the bud. We'll call the vet tomorrow for a checkup just to make sure he isn't hurting anywhere and manifesting it like that. But mostly we're just confused. I don't know if we're overreacting, we may be. Maybe the growling and the attachment were spectate incidents and there was just something about that one dog he really didn't like. Has anyone else's dog suddenly developed attachment/aggression issues? Any and all advice appreciated, even if it's that we're being paranoid. Relevant comments 1. Any chance your wife is pregnant? Bobby. Oh shit. She's sleeping now but I'll tell her and she'll take a test tomorrow morning. Maybe our dog should raise the child too, since he's clearly more switched on than either or our dumb asses are. Top comments 1. It's been 10 hours. Wake her up and pee on a stick. I want to know. Top comments 2. The suspense is so real with this one. Update. The wifey is pregnant. Otis is still being overprotective but it all makes sense now. Thanks for all the advice and kind words. Top comments 1. This makes me want to get a dog when I'm trying to get pregnant. Top comments 2. My family dog Star started doing this with my mother when she was pregnant. The dog knew before she did. Top comments 3. With my first, my Boston Terrier did exactly this. She was rescued from a kill shelter in Missouri, not long after the 2008 crash, where she was found pregnant and genetically deaf and had gotten pregnant less than 1 year old. They were going to euthanize her as soon as her puppies were weaned, but a kind woman got her out. The dog was only half the weight she should have been. She was nursed back to health and then sent to the Northeast where we were able to adopt her. She came home and 10 months later I was pregnant. She then constantly lived on my lap and even our neighbors who came over all the time and who she used to run over to play with got growls. Any man was potential danger. Women were not treated suspiciously. Went to hospital, gave birth and hubby brought the baby's hat home for the doggy to smell. When I came home with baby, said hat was in the dog bed with her. At this point she transferred all her protection to that baby. To the point that she started to lose weight and refused to leave the baby to go eat. I had to breastfeed next to her dog bowl. On the day she died, that little baby was 6 years old and she played with her like she wasn't dying with cancer riddled throughout her body. All dogs are wonderful, but I am convinced that we only get one truly incomparable dog. She was mine. Top comments 4. I can just imagine his face when he said, "Oh shit." Top comments 5. My German Shepherd was the exact same. And the only time he did the stereotypical dog burying the bone in the yard routine was during pregnancies. He'd bury his treats, his chews, a mouthful of kibble here and there, and the pears and apples from our fruit trees. The vet said he was making sure there was enough food to go around for when the new mouth to feed showed up. Am I the asshole for removing all of my fiancé's certificates from the wall after he took down my daughter's dog picture? Me, F34, and my fiancé, M36, got engaged 2 months ago. I own the house we currently live in, but after he moved in he started helping out with the mortgage payment. I have a daughter, Ruby, F12, she adores animals, she had about 7 pets so far in her life. Unfortunately her dog Tick passed away. He was her closest friend and favorite pet. It was devastating for me as well because he was so precious. As a way to honor him, I've printed a middle-sized picture of him, Ruby's favorite, and put it in a frame and hanged the frame in the living room wall. Ruby was so happy with it, especially since she gets to see him smiling at her when she walks in. It gives her comfort. My fiancé saw it and got upset. He commented on how strange it was to have the dog's picture up on the wall and how much of distraction it brings. I felt puzzled because we have all kinds of pictures that were hanging on that wall. He suggested we remove it, but I ignored him. One day I got home and saw that he's taken it down. Ruby was in her room crying holding the picture. I asked what happened and she told me that my fiancé took the picture off and told her she's not allowed to have it hung up there, also told her to keep it in her room if she didn't want to lose it for good. I was shocked. I rushed out and immediately started taking down all the certificates he had on that wall. His doctorate, master's and bachelor's degrees. And about 4 to 5 other certificates as well. All of them I took down and put in the bedroom. He discovered what I did and snapped at me and said that it's his house as well and I should respect his input. In my defense, I told him that since my daughter has to keep it in her room, then he too has to keep his certificates in his room. According to his logic, he yelled at me demanding that I stop nagging him and acting childishly and spitefully. He wanted to put them back up, but I refused and said that if he does that then Tick's picture will be put back up as well. He yelled about how I disrespected him and his achievements and treated them as trash and then stormed out. He's been giving both me and Ruby the cold shoulder for days now, saying he outspeak to neither of us till we apologize and put those certificates back up on the wall ourselves. Great comment 1. He doesn't want equal say, he wants a dictatorship. It's clear that he will continue to hurt your daughter behind your back. I would reevaluate my relationship. He told me it's his house too now, so he should be able to have a say in it. I find this illogical because he's only paid a 2 months worth of mortgage, unlike me who put all my savings and sold important items. TK be able to get this house. Great comment 2. He is trying to take over what you have achieved. You need to think hard about what life will look like for you and your daughter going forward, as this is only 2 months in. What is her emotional well-being worth to you? Great comment 3. This is so important. It's not just the relationship now, OP's daughter will remember forever how her mum handles this man. Great comment 4. Plus, if OP dies, do you think this man will take care of your child? Or will her just sell your house, keep the money and cart your kid off somewhere? I knew someone who had 3 children, owned her own home. 2 kids to 1 man and 1 from previous relationship. She married the father of 2 and he was distant and cold to the non-bio child. However, he wasn't as bad outwardly to the non-bio child as your fiancé was to your child. Not until the mum died unexpectedly at 42 and he told the 15-year-old non-bio kid that he had a month to get out. He moved a new woman into the house and raised his bio children there, and the 15-year-old wasn't allowed to see his siblings. Lost his mum, siblings and home all in the same month. He lived with a maternal aunt on her sofa for a few years as she had no space for him. My dog saved my life when he attacked a stalker who broke into my house. While I'm dealing with PTSD and need support, my sister-in-law says the dog is too dangerous to be around my niece. I feel like I'm losing my mind. I used to be in this controlling, kind of abusive relationship. When I finally broke it off a year ago, my ex started showing up places trying to get me to take him back. Eventually, it developed into full-on stalking. He would show up at my work and took to just waiting outside of it after he was banned, leave notes on my car when I was at the grocery store, leave all kinds of flowers outside my house and then stick angry notes on my door after he saw me throw them in the trash, wrote me all kinds of weird, obsessive emails and letters. I've had to change my phone number 3 times. The behavior escalated over time and got scarier/more threatening. In one instance, he started a small fire in my driveway, but the police couldn't get enough evidence connecting him to it. It was after that instance that I put cameras in my yard. I previously only had them pointing at my doors. I was horrified to learn that the police couldn't do shit about any of this until my stalker actually was caught doing something illegal, like breaking into my house. At which point, I might already be dead. I decided I wasn't spending the rest of my life waiting for the other shoe to drop. So I got a handgun and a concealed carry permit, took some self-defense courses and started doing strength training. I also looked into getting an attack dog, but after all the money I'd sunk into my other methods of protection, they were prohibitively expensive. So I went to my local animal shelter and got the scariest, meanest-looking dog I could find. This is where Thor comes in. He's a 100-pound American bulldog, looks like he'd rip your throat out on sight, but is basically a gigantic teddy bear. He loves every person he's ever met, is incredibly sweet and gentle with my 4-year-old niece, enjoys other animals and even loves the mailman. I just kind of accepted that he probably wouldn't do anything to protect me from my stalker, but it didn't matter that much because having such a huge dog made me so much more confident. I brought Thor everywhere I could and was working on getting him trained enough to be an emotional support animal so I could bring him inside places with me. I absolutely would not do this until he was trained well enough to not disrupt a regular service dog. Last month, I woke up in the middle of the night to Thor whining. I was groggy and thought he had to go to the bathroom, so I got out of bed and opened the door. At that point, my house alarm went off, and pretty soon after that, I was face to face with my stalker. I started screaming and went to run for my gun. Before I could do anything though, Thor ran across the room in full attack mode. The memory is really blurry for me, but there was blood all over my living room, and I remember my stalker was eventually able to escape, at which point Thor chased him outside and then came back to me. When the police showed up, they said Thor was a hero who'd probably saved my life. I don't want to list what they found in my stalker's car after they caught him, and I'm shaking a little as I type this, but I'm sure he was going to bring me somewhere and kill me. It looks like he's going to prison for a long time though, so my nightmare is over. Pretty much everyone in my life thinks Thor is a hero, except my sister-in-law. She and my brother have a 4-year-old child, and she says she doesn't want Thor around the child anymore. She says since Thor has snapped in the past, he could do it again, so he's not safe to have around kids. The way she words this makes me really angry because Thor didn't snap. He saw a stranger break into his home, heard his owner scream in terror, and reacted to defend me, himself, and his house. Nothing about that screams dangerous around children to me, unless my niece is also going to break into my house and threaten me. This is also a very emotional issue for me because Thor isn't just a dog to me. He's my safe place, my hero, the one who protected me and kept me safe when no one else could. I've also gotten increasingly anxious since this happened, and I can't go anywhere without Thor. I barely leave my house, pay to pick up my groceries from the store instead of going in because I know Thor isn't allowed inside, and all my friends know that if Thor isn't welcome in their house, I'm not coming either, although they're perfectly welcome to come hang out at my house instead. I am really going through it and am working with a therapist to overcome this. But I really need my brother and sister-in-law's support. I think my sister-in-law thinks I'm just pouting, and that's why I won't just leave the dog home and come over without him. I don't know how to explain to them that the fear hasn't stopped just because my stalker is in jail. It's actually a lot worse than it was before. I've already suggested they come over and I crate Thor, but that wasn't good enough for her. What can I do to make her understand the situation better? Update. I appreciated that I got advice from all over the spectrum, from people who completely agreed with me to people who completely agreed with my sister-in-law, and people who thought both of us had a point. It helped me see that the problem is more complicated than I thought, which helped me understand that my sister-in-law wasn't just being a dick. It also helped me decide what things were and weren't fair to be angry about. I also appreciated seeing a few people comment making fun of me for needing my dog with me, and the majority of people yelling at them and saying I was acting pretty reasonably for someone who endured a violent attack. I don't want to be seen as someone delicate, and I'm glad that most people don't see me that way. Reading everyone's comments, I had this moment where I was like, yeah, they're right. I did almost get drug out of my house and murdered just a few weeks ago. Who the hell are these people to say how I should act? That felt really good and I really appreciated it. Anyway, the conclusion I came to in all of this is that while my sister-in-law is well within her rights to protect her daughter, she went about it in a way that disrespected me, both as a friend and as a victim of a very recent violent attack. Both my parents and her parents live locally and babysit all the time. She and my brother could have sister-in-law dropped my niece off with them and came to visit. It probably would have been a while before I even noticed my niece wasn't coming around, at which point I would have been in a better place and more understanding that she was uncomfortable with her daughter around Thor. Regardless of what some people said about how my sister-in-law and brother don't owe me anything and all their allegiance goes to their daughter, I simply do not feel that way. We were extremely close before this happened. I was always there for them, and would literally drop plans to babysit my niece if my brother and sister-in-law needed a night to themselves. The very least they could have done for me after I was almost kidnapped and murdered, is try to find some compromise. We went from seeing each other 3 times a week to pretty much not seeing each other at all. Even if they weren't okay with me crating the dog, they could have sister-in-law dropped their daughter off with grandma and grandpa for a few hours so I wouldn't feel completely isolated. I also have a yard so they could have come over with her and we all could have hung out outside while Thor stayed inside. I've been upset about this for a while, but wasn't sure if I was right to be upset until so many people echoed that sentiment. So I appreciate it. I invited my brother and sister-in-law over, I promised it would only be an hour or 2 and insisted they leave my niece with my parents, and tried to lay all this out without being confrontational or acting like a dick. To my surprise, my brother and sister-in-law had no real understanding that I've been having a difficult time. They thought I was basically fine and everything in my life was more or less back to normal now that my stalker is in jail. I didn't get into it in my previous post, but during the year that I was stalked, I worked really hard to not show many outward signs of fear. I even made jokes about having a stalker. I knew people wouldn't want to hang out with someone who was constantly going on and on about some bad thing that was going on in their life, and I didn't want to be that person who was perpetually in crisis. And more than that, I just didn't want to always be thinking and talking about having a stalker. I wanted to not think about it as much as possible. So I guess I might have come off as unaffected by the whole thing. I'm not sure if I totally buy that they didn't know I was going through something traumatic and that it was taking a huge toll on my mental state. I mean, I got a gun and paid for tactical training. I bought a home security system. I got active in self-defense classes and strength training, things that I previously had no interest in. Even if I wasn't walking around telling everyone how scared I was, I think anyone would have been able to tell. Plus, who just brushes off having their house broken into in the middle of the night? It seems crazy and they don't seem so emotionally unintelligent that they'd think that. But both my brother and sister-in-law did apologize for being insensitive, and when I pressed my sister-in-law on why crating the dog isn't good enough, she eventually relented and said that it would be fine. It probably helped that the entire time they were over, Thor was asleep and loudly snoring in his crate. The paranoid part of me is convinced they just don't want to deal with me in a fragile state, made up an excuse about my dog, and are now just going to come up with some other excuse about why they can't see me. I invited them over for dinner in a few days and they're coming, so I guess I'll just have to see from there. I can't stress enough that these used to be my best friends, and I'm heartbroken to have not had their support. I've been trying to rely on my friends more now, and thankfully they've all been really supportive. I'm really lucky that this happened during the pandemic, because nobody is getting frustrated with me that I've basically refused to leave the house for a month. They're all perfectly happy to pick up takeout and come over to watch TV for the 5th night in a row. In other news, yesterday I left my dog at home and drove around my block alone. I was shaking the whole time, but I did it. I keep trying to remind myself that I spent a whole year fighting back even though I was utterly terrified. I can't just lay down and die now that I'm so close to getting my life back. Things are better with my sister-in-law and brother, but I don't know if they'll stay that way. I'm relying on friends for support instead. I'm disappointed but also doing better. Great comment 1. OP probably has some PTSD. She spent a year in fear being terrorized by a guy who could attack her at any time. Comes to a head, guy goes to jail, but she was still in a state of constant fear for a year, and the attack alone is traumatizing AF. Having your home broken into is very brutal for so many people. Your home is supposed to be your safe haven. Her safe haven is her dog, and that's understandable. I hope OOP gets into therapy. She deserves to heal. And hopefully she gets a good support system. Great comment 2. I read, and I believe it, that people desperately want to believe that victims did something to cause the attack. If the victim led the attacker on, or wore something inappropriate, or walked down a dark street alone, we feel safer because we would never do that. It's sad, and that doesn't even cover those people who can't feel for anyone but themselves. My dog ate my neighbor's drone. He took me to small claims court, but karma hit him harder. He ended up paying me. Good job, dog. Earlier today my neighbor came pounding on my door screaming obscenities and shouting at me. When I finally got him to stop yelling, I found out that he was flying his drone in my backyard again, and this time my dog finally managed to catch it and destroy it. He claims this was a $900 drone and I had to pay him right then and there. I refused and closed the door in his face. A couple hours later police showed up to retrieve the drone. It was still in my yard, but my dog completely ignored it once it stopped buzzing, and asked about the situation. The said neighbor called them stating that I refused him access to my yard to get it. That's not true, he never asked. Furthermore, he has a history of flying his drone low over my yard to tease my dog. I have asked him to stop several times, which he always refuses, telling me that I don't own the air above my yard. I have called the police to complain once before. He was doing flybys over my dog and getting very close to hitting him. The police didn't say he couldn't fly it in my yard but did ask him to stop doing so in order to avoid conflict. That only seemed to egg him on. I'm worried the neighbor will try to press charges against me for destruction of property or sue me. Will he have any legal standing if this does go to court? Update. I was served a summons by a sheriff's deputy. Neighbor decided to take me to small claims over his drone. My mother-in-law is a paralegal secretary, so I was able to get a free consultation with a lawyer where she works to ask some questions about what to bring and how to prepare. He seemed genuinely amused that my neighbor was even trying to sue. He also suggested I counter-sue and how I could possibly add in more damages. He also told me that my neighbor and I technically live within 5 miles of an airport, and even though it doesn't have a tower technically that falls under FAA regulations. I called the hotline from Google and spoke to them about my neighbor's hobby of flying out of line of sight, flying several thousand feet in the air, flying near an airport, and made an inquiry into if he was registered to fly drones, saying he owned 2 very large drones. I don't know the weight of his, but it definitely is at least a few pounds. They took my information and have called me back once, so I know they're investigating. I brought both police reports to court as well as several photos of my backyard, photos of our shared 8-foot-high privacy fence, medical bills for my dog, and a few short videos I had of him doing flybys over my dog in the past. His main argument to the judge was that I maliciously installed a table to allow my dog to jump high enough to catch his drone, which I, somehow, trained him to do. Which, yes, I had recently bought a new picnic table, but only so I have somewhere to sit and eat outside. I argued that his flying was causing my dog anxiety and that's what provoked it, and thanks to y'all's advice, that my dog could have potentially died from ingesting part of the drone or if the drone hit him. In the end, he now has to pay me just under $2,000 for various vet bills, x-rays, dental exams, sedation, medication, etc. He is also banned from flying over my property, and I installed trail cams front and backyards just in case. This is the best thing that happens to me. Great comment 1. Some people never advance past the middle school bully stage of life. I hope the FAA finds that he's breaking some laws and he also faces consequences from them. Great comment 2. Anything larger than 250G, a drone the size of a dinner plate or so, needs to be registered. There are regs in elevation flying, and not fucking around regs surrounding controlled airspace like within radius of an airport. Neighbors going to get ground into paste lol. I suspect my boyfriend let my dog escape on purpose. I was devastated. 5 months ago, I was out shopping for groceries when I got a text from my boyfriend asking if I let my dog out before I left. I told him I didn't and that he was asleep on the couch when I left and I'd appreciate if he let him out while he was over. He said of course, and that was the end of the conversation until I got home. My apartment has a slider that leads out onto a small yard where my dog does his business. There's one gate fence that leads out into the parking lot that has to be unlocked from the inside. When I came home, my boyfriend was in the kitchen waiting for me and said that my dog accidentally got out. He was very apologetic and said he opened the slider to let him out and somehow the gate was open and my dog ran out and he couldn't catch him. I spent 2 months calling around to shelters, humane societies, rescues, animal control, putting up flyers, going to these places to look, asked my neighbors, I looked everywhere for him. I was heartbroken and I basically haven't stopped crying. My dog has never been one to run even if the gate was open. He loves to be around people and if his people are around he stays put. I adopted him when he was 3 years old when I got an apartment and he's my first dog I'm responsible for on my own, not a family dog. He's now an older guy going on 7, he doesn't have it in him to run away. He knows he has it good and sees running away wouldn't have any benefits. And beyond that, when I rescued him, he went through training and has very good recall. Not perfect, but he comes about 80% of the time when he's called. And then 2 days ago I get a call from a vet hospital 2 hours away saying that they scanned a stray dog and found his microchip matched my information. I may have broken a few speed limits getting to him but he was there. My little man was at the freaking vet hospital. I cried and asked 1,000 questions. He was found in that town wandering the day prior by an amazing woman who brought him to the vet. They said when he was dropped off he didn't have a collar on and they asked the woman and she said he was found as is. But he was a little malnourished and dehydrated so the vet put him on a drip and got some food into him and scanned him today when they opened. And then they found me. I was so overwhelmed and happy and couldn't even start my car once I got in with him because I couldn't stop crying for a good 10 minutes. I drove him home, gave him a bath and called/texted everyone he was home safe. My boyfriend's response was really? Cool. Then he came over yesterday and obviously all I wanted to do was tell him what happened. But he didn't even seem like he cared. He just nodded along as I talked. I asked him if something was wrong but he said he was fine. My dog wouldn't go near him which was weird considering my dog loved him before. I just figured he was scared to be home with other people at the moment and needed time to adjust. After my boyfriend left, I couldn't help but start maybe overthinking which has led to this post. First, my dog wore a martingale collar with his tags on it and the collar had my information stitched into it. And he had his rabies tag, dog license, and an ID tag with his name, address, phone number, and said, I am microchipped. For those that don't know, martingale collars, the one I had on him, are not buckle or breakaway collars. They have to be physically tightened or loosened to be taken off. Not something my dog could have just slipped when he ran off. At least not easily. Don't come for me for having this collar on him. I now know the risks but I didn't at the time. He's now wearing a breakaway collar. Second, he won't go near my boyfriend. My boyfriend did try to lean down and pet him when he came over yesterday and as soon as my dog noticed, he ran into my bedroom and didn't leave until my boyfriend left. Yet he said a very excitable hi to a few of his favorite neighbors, both male and female, young and older. Usually my dog would be walking over to my boyfriend and sitting by him until he acknowledges him with a few pets or a treat. Third, the gate. It's a very rare occasion I use that gate. I don't remember even using it the week my dog went missing. It only opens from the inside. And I've never once before had an issue with it opening on its own. There's no damage to it, and you can bet I fiddled with it when he first went missing to see if it was broken or there was something wrong with it. Nothing was. It latched fine and closed fine. Fourth, when my dog went missing, my boyfriend wasn't invested. When I made the first round of flyers to put up, he actually asked, "Do you really think these will help?" Looking back, I don't think he cared one way or another if my dog was found. Never once before did my boyfriend say anything negative about my dog. He was never overly affectionate or excited that I had a dog, but he would throw the ball and pet him when he came over. They were never best friends cuddling up on the couch, but my dog did see him as someone to play with and hang out with. Now I feel like I'm going crazy. I think I might be overthinking this. Maybe it was a freak accident and he just ran out the yard because it was open for some reason? Or the alternative is my boyfriend willingly let my dog leave the yard and somehow got him to go away. Because I know my dog and he would never just run unless he thought it was a game or something. Is this something I ask him about? How do I even bring this up? Hey, did you make my dog run away? Or is this just something I'm just over-exaggerating in my head because I'm happy my dog's home but I'm looking for answers? Update 1. I brought my dog to his usual vet to get checked out this morning. He's still a little dehydrated and he needs to eat more food, but spread throughout the day. He's lost weight and needs to get it back on. He's also exhausted. Otherwise, except for a few scrapes and spots, he's doing really good. To put into perspective how far away from home he was, I googled how far my apartment is from the vet office he was found, set it to a walking human speed, and it's 34 hours away and 99.2 miles away. It may not seem far because of a car or any form of transportation, but for a dog, that's a long ways to go. As for motives as to why he would do it, I don't know. I really don't. I got my dog at 2 months after I started dating my boyfriend, but we had been friends for a few months before and he knew I really wanted a dog. When I finally did get my dog, he wasn't exactly happy about it. He was asking questions like, "Can you actually afford a dog? And an apartment? What about when you go to class and work?" He tried to convince me not to adopt him, but I was dead set on it. He wasn't the only one who was saying these things. My dad was very upset with me for getting a dog until I showed him my entire plan and expenses of it. And then he was fine with it. However, my boyfriend was still saying I was making a mistake. It took him a few weeks to finally get around to even play with him. I did speak to my landlord about any cameras in the area and he said that he would take a look, but he wasn't sure if there was one facing near the yard to see if the gate really was open and my dog ran through. And just a reminder, please microchip your animals if you can, and give them some love. Update 2. I talked to my now ex-boyfriend Friday night. I asked again how Remy got out. His story didn't change. He let him out through the slider into the yard, and Remy ran through the gate that my ex didn't notice was open. He chased him through the parking lot, but Remy got away and he couldn't catch him. And then he went back to my apartment to wait for me. I asked why he didn't keep looking and he got defensive and asked why I was bringing this up. I laid out every issue I had with his story: the collar, where he was found, the gate somehow being open, how he didn't want me to get Remy in the first place, how Remy wouldn't go near him the other night, how he didn't want to help me find him when Remy first went missing, trying to tell me it wouldn't help to look for him, and didn't seem to care when I brought him home. We started arguing about it and he kept saying the gate was open and he must have just gotten lost on his way home. He was adamant he didn't have anything to do with Remy running away, saying it was just a freak accident. I didn't believe him and I still don't. I told him the trust between us was gone. The fact that he wasn't there trying to help me when it was his fault Remy got out and that I had to practically beg him to help me look for him. I broke up with him, telling him that even if he didn't have something to do with Remy going missing, he wasn't there to be supportive and we just weren't working and it was better now that we ended it. And I should have seen this before. I knew there were issues and I didn't want to acknowledge them or see them, and there's no one to blame for that but me. My landlord talked to me Sunday about the camera. Outside my gate is part of the parking lot that wraps around to the back of the building where other residents park. There's a camera that faces the entrance where the cars come in parallel to the residents' yards, where my ex said they ran through. My landlord didn't see Remy running or my ex chasing him on the tape the day he went missing. I'm not saying it's definitive proof. Could they both have somehow ran in the blind spot of the camera? I don't know, I didn't see the tape. It's anyone's guess at this point, but I'm going with my instinct here. And for those of you who decided to inbox me and say I'm personifying my dog and that I'm an idiot for thinking he wouldn't run away or that there's hundreds of other possibilities and I'm crazy for blaming my ex. Yeah, maybe I am. Maybe I'm reading too much into the fact that my dog, who used to run up and demand to be pet, barked at my ex, backed up to the end of the couch and then ran away from him, and hid in my bedroom the entire time he was here. Maybe it was just a coincidence that this totally new behavior in an almost 7-year-old dog, that didn't have an issue with anyone else he saw after coming home, was just that, a coincidence. Maybe I am a nutcase or a crazy dog person for ruining my relationship over a fucking dog. But either way, I'm happy my dog's home safe with me. Great comment 1. If I accidentally let my girlfriend's dog out, I would be so upset with myself that I would be leading the search for the dog. This guy got rid of the dog on purpose. Great comment 2. I'm thinking the boyfriend drove him somewhere, not chased him through the gate. But that's just my theory. Great comment 3. And poor dog was on his own for 5 whole months. Not even knowing why. After a year of warnings and my brother ignoring the problem, my dog finally growled at my niece. Now my brother wants to put the dog down, but everyone else sides with me. Hi everyone. I have fostered a multitude of dogs in my life, and dealt with a lot of behavioral problems: dog aggression, cat aggression, food aggression, separation anxiety, super high prey drives. I've seen it all, and I've certainly encountered my fair share of dogs who weren't safe around small children. So I feel extremely confident in saying my current 5-year-old lab mix is safe for kids. He's basically a gigantic teddy bear and loves everyone. However, it's always been my personal philosophy that dogs should never be left alone with young kids, even if it's the sweetest, most mild-mannered dog in the world. The kids don't understand when they're pushing the dog past its limits, and the dog cannot reasonably be expected to put up with being harassed long after it's signaled that it would like to be left alone. My niece has never been good with my dog. She pulls his tail, climbs on or lays on him, hits him, pulls his ears, gets in his face and yells at him, and never gives him a second to himself unless she's forced to. He is basically a saint with her, but every dog has its limits. I stay as on top of this behavior as I can, forcing her to leave him alone when it starts to seem like too much, and locking him away in a bedroom if she won't. My brother and sister-in-law, 30 female, really just don't get it though. I've tried to talk to them about this behavior a bunch of times and they know it's wrong, but they think it's wrong in the same way that her refusing to share or not picking up her toys is wrong. They don't understand that it's dangerous, and that if she was left alone long enough, my dog might lose it and attack her. This has been going on for over a year. I've tried to have this conversation with my brother over and over, but he always acts like I'm criticizing his parenting. Which is not the case. I don't think my niece is especially bratty or out of control for a kid that age. It's just that this behavior is dangerous to both her and my dog, and it needs constant intervention. The same way that a small kid playing with the stove isn't especially bratty, it's just especially dangerous and needs to be curbed ASAP. I even tried having a dog trainer friend explain this to him, and he still didn't get it. I've tried to come up with excuses for why we can never meet at my house for our family hangouts, but I couldn't think of one the other day and my brother and niece came over. I was cooking dinner and not paying enough attention to make sure my dog was okay, which was absolutely my fault, and I accept responsibility. I asked my brother a few times to keep her away from my dog, but he kept saying she was fine. I did move my niece away from him a few times, but I wasn't vigilant enough, and my dog ended up getting to the end of his rope and growling at my niece. I immediately grabbed my dog and brought him into my bedroom. I did not punish him at all. Frankly, I'm glad that he signaled loud and clear that he was uncomfortable. I would never want to discourage him from doing that because then next time he'd skip the growling and go straight to attacking. I came out of the room ready to talk to my brother about how this is what I've been talking about. But he was furious, yelled that my dog is a menace who should be put down and left. I completely understood his reaction. That's his daughter and he was afraid for her and nothing else mattered to him. But he hasn't calmed down at all since this happened, and won't talk to me except to say my dog needs to be put down and he won't be speaking to me until it's done. He's also tried to involve our parents, who said they will absolutely not be getting involved. They know my niece's behavior with my dog has been a problem in the past. I have not heard from my sister-in-law at all, which makes me think she might agree with me. Knowing her personality type, I don't really think she'd sit out a fight like this if she thought my dog was dangerous. The way I see it, this is solely my fault and my brother's fault. I shouldn't have allowed my niece to harass my dog. I knew what could happen, and I was more concerned about how upset my brother got when I tried to bring it up, than I was about my niece's safety. I should have just said my niece wasn't allowed around my dog until she got a bit older, and dealt with whatever fallout there was within my family. Similarly, my brother should have kept a better eye on his kid, and not been so defensive when I tried to explain the problem. My dog, on the other hand, put up with being harassed for over a year, and when he was finally pushed to his limits, signaled very loudly and harmlessly that he needed to be removed from the situation. He is not dangerous and I will not put him down. My brother is now saying that the entire family has sided with a dog over his child, which is not the case. It's just that there are lots of other solutions to this problem. I am perfectly happy to crate my dog when they come over, or leave him in another room, or just never have them over again and hang out somewhere else. There's no reason for my niece to ever see my dog again, and I'd be happy to talk over a solution with him. It's just that he won't talk to me at all and I don't know what to do. Should I give him more time to cool off? Should I go over to his house and try to talk? I don't want to ruin this relationship, we are very close, but I'm just not putting my dog down over this. Update 1. This update is kind of a mixed bag. My family has been having dinner together one night a week since the pandemic started, usually at my parents' house. This week I thought my brother and his family would sit it out, and it would just be me and my parents. But my sister-in-law showed up without my brother or niece. She said she absolutely did not want to discuss what happened, so we didn't. But I can't imagine how pissed she must be at my brother, to openly go against him so she could attend a dinner with her in-laws. So that's good. Since dinner went well and we all had a good time, I decided to send my brother a text this morning to try to make amends. The text I sent is as follows. Hey bud. We missed you and niece at dinner last night. I was hoping you'd come by so we could talk about what happened with niece and dog. I understand why you're upset and I'm really sorry that niece was scared. You know how much I love niece, and I'd never want anything bad to happen to her. I absolutely won't put dog down though. He's not dangerous, it's just that he can't talk, so he growled to communicate that he wanted niece to leave him alone. He's a family member to me, I can't put him down. Especially when he didn't do anything wrong. But there's lots of other solutions we can work out to keep niece safe. I'm totally fine if no one in your family ever wants to see dog again. Or if you want, we can talk with dog trainer friend to try to figure something out that keeps everyone safe. You know, I think you're a great dad and doing an awesome job with niece, but I really think she would benefit from understanding how to treat animals. The next dog she meets might not be as relaxed as mine and she could really get hurt. We can work on teaching her together. Do you want to meet for dinner next week? I can come to you and we can get takeout from restaurant. I miss you. The text I got back is as follows. Once again, you and everyone else choose a dog over my human child. It doesn't matter what my child did, she is a human and deserves to be safe. You're really saying, well, she started it about your dog almost attacking my child? You can't keep a dog that would attack a kid for being a kid. And I can't believe you're talking about the next time my girl meets a dog. What about the next time your dog meets a kid? The next parent won't be so understanding, they'll call animal control and demand he be put down on the spot. No, we can't meet for dinner like nothing happened. And my response, sorry you feel that way. Please let me know when you're ready to talk about it. I'll be here. The discussion ends numbers. I know a lot of you think my brother is a dick, and just hearing about this one incident I would too. But I really think every single one of us would come off as a dick if someone wrote a Reddit post, asking for advice about the biggest asshole thing we've ever done. Everyone has their good and bad qualities, everyone is sometimes a chore to be around, and I love my brother. I don't want to fight with him and I'm disappointed he's determined to drag this out. I know a lot of you wanted me to just ignore him until he stopped acting like a jackass or cut him out altogether, but that's just not realistic for me in our relationship and it's not something I want. I do think my sis-in-law is eventually just going to make him talk to me, so hopefully this won't drag on for too much longer, but I'm just really sad about the whole thing. I've done all I can do though. Great comment 1. I feel like the brother is more pissed at the fact that he was wrong all along by not teaching his daughter not to bother the dog. Now that OP was proven right, he's finding anyone else to blame for what happened. Great comment 2. I grew up with dogs and still got nipped by the neighbor's dog when I approached him poorly for the first time. My parents made sure I wasn't injured, told me what I did wrong with the dog, told me how to do it right the next time, and then we all had dinner with the neighbors as planned. Great comment 3. I remember quite a few years back I was outside a restaurant waiting for my to-go order and saw a couple with a young child, around 4 to 5, making chit-chat with a single guy with a golden retriever. The kid and the dog were playing a few feet away from the adults, and because they were so engaged in their conversation, they didn't notice that the kid was now literally yanking the dog's tail with all his weight behind it. The dog whipped around to nip at the kid twice, which the kid avoided by dodging because he still thought they were playing. Unfortunately, because my anger was high from watching the dog get hurt and the parents' failure to prevent it, I was less kind than I wanted to be when I stood up and shouted at the kid to stop. I could feel his parents staring daggers at me as I got my food and left, but I didn't care because a lot worse would have happened if I just sat there and did nothing. Great comment 4. For real, my dog is great with kids, but I always supervise him. One time a kid started patting him way too hard on the head and my poor dog just looked at me like, please save me. So I did. I was like, sorry kid, doggy needs a break now. The kids' parents weren't even nearby or watching at all. My dad hoped I would give up my dog for his fiancée and her son, but he doesn't know I'd do almost anything to keep him. And I won. I'm really upset about this right now. I'm 17F. My parents divorced when I was 12. It was really rough. They pretty much hate each other and still have trouble doing anything together where I'm concerned. I try not to talk about them to each other and just keep things separate. All the fighting and chaos was hard on me and was affecting my mood and schoolwork when it was all going down, so my dad felt bad and let me have a dog to help me feel better. Someone nearby had Malamute puppies, so I picked out one and his name is Tycho and he's my best friend. Even on the weeks I'm with my mom, I stop by after school every day to take him to the dog park to play and get his cuddles in. I love this dog. My dad started dating Melanie a few years ago. I don't really connect with her, we're just really different and she's way too touchy, but she makes my dad happy, so whatever. Her son Ben, 9M, is autistic and needs a lot of accommodations. He gets really upset and has meltdowns when things change or are done differently. He's also really scared of Tycho, even though as far as I know Tycho has never done anything to scare him. He's a really laid-back and well-behaved dog. Dad and Melanie recently got engaged and they want to go ahead and move her and Ben in so that they can get rid of their apartment and save money. My dad told me about it and said that since Ben is afraid of Tycho and needs a stable environment at home, Tycho is going to have to go somewhere else. My mom's townhouse doesn't have room for him and my grandparents aren't in good enough health to look after a big dog, so we would have to rehome him. I admit I didn't take it very well and we had a big fight. I told him that no way was I going to give up my dog and I'm going to college next year anyway, so they can put off the move until the spring when I can find a place to take him with me. My dad says they need to do the move over the holidays and Ben is more important than a dog. I told him if he gives away my dog I'll never forgive him and that he obviously thinks Ben is more important than me too. My dad is mad because I'm making this a choice between me and his fiancée basically. Melanie is having second thoughts about the engagement since I don't want to live with them. My mom is mad at my dad and they're fighting again, and I'm afraid to leave Tycho alone because he might not be there when I get back. My aunt says I'm being childish and my dad deserves to be happy. Update 1. I talked to my mom and grandparents after school. I brought Tycho to my mom's place this afternoon and I'm going to take him to my grandparents tomorrow. I'm going to split time between them and my mom for a while, and my grandparents said that if I go to college nearby I can live with them while I study to make sure I don't lose my dog. So I'm going to look at maybe doing 2 years at a local college and then transferring to a university later. I haven't told my dad yet, but I will after I get Tycho settled tomorrow. I already went online and made sure his chip information is up to date with all my info and my mom's as backup. Pretty sure all hell is going to break loose, but honestly, I'd do almost anything to not lose my dog, including just not going to college right now if that's what I have to do. He takes care of me, so I have to take care of him. Update 2. It's been a rough few days. My dad flipped his shit when I told him I wasn't coming back to his place and he and my mom are duking it out right now. My mom's lawyer asked me a bunch of questions and then said not to worry about it. Melanie called to find out what was going on, so I told her that if living with her and Ben means I lose my dog I'm just not going to live there anymore, and she tried to talk me out of it because my dad didn't want to lose me. But I told her that's just how it is. I think they're fighting now too. My grandparents said my dad is being totally unreasonable and he's not allowed to come on their property. Gonna be a fun Christmas. I'm just going to stay at my grandparents and try to keep my head down until I go back to school. But Tycho seems to like it here. He has a lot more space to run around and still gets to sleep next to my bed, so he's happy at least. Final update. So, Melanie broke it off with my dad. My dad didn't talk to me for a while, but he finally asked to have lunch, so my grandpa went with me because he wanted to make sure I was safe and my dad didn't yell at me. My dad apologized for trying to make me give up Tycho and wants me to come back home. I told him I would come visit, but I'm still afraid he'll take my dog. Living with my grandparents has also been really nice. It's quiet, they appreciate me helping out with the farm, and my grandma is teaching me how to cook. He wasn't happy, but he said he understood and we worked out a plan for me to visit for dinner a few days on the weeks that used to be his weeks, and I'm dropping by to see my mom most days on her weeks, but spending most of my time with my grandparents. I got a scholarship to the local branch of the state university and it's only an hour and some away and has the degree program I want, so I think I'm going to go there for at least the first 2 years. I'm going to talk to admissions about getting a waiver from living on campus since I'm helping my grandparents. Both my parents are going to chip in on an allowance for me and Tycho while I'm in school. My mom says my grandparents can relax more and are feeling better with me there. Also, they love Tycho being around now too, so it's the best option for everyone and I'll be able to budget for vet visits and everything. My dad is still mad at my mom and Melanie, but he doesn't want me to miss out on college and he seems to be more himself after the first week of visits. Thank you all for the advice. I'm so relieved this has worked out. I've had hella anxiety over Christmas about all of this, but I get to keep Tycho, things are mending with my dad and I'm on track for college. Great comment 1. Trying to get rid of your kid's beloved pet for a new love interest is a surefire way to alienate them. Great comment 2. He broke his kid's trust. It's really hard to come back from that. You can see it in her post. Even though the fiancé isn't in the picture anymore, she's still scared that father is going to take away her dog. And there's always going to be this voice in the back of OOP's head asking, if Melanie didn't leave him, would he have still admitted he was wrong? Would he have still tried to make me get rid of the dog? And there's nothing her father can do to truly answer that question for her. Great comment 3. That repeated fear that dad would secretly steal the dog away just gutted me. That is a huge weight to live with and a level of distrust that you don't come back from. 11. Am I the best chance my dog has for a good life? I'll preface it by saying I do not wish to rehome my dog, I'm just not sure if I'm the best owner for the job. I have an almost 3-year-old medium-sized male German Shepherd mix. I initially got him with the intention of doing agility, which is why I got such a high-energy dog, but that didn't pan out for reasons I'll go into later. I got him from a shelter that turned out to be a huge scam, lied about him having his shots, he had worms, and I had to fight tooth and nail to get them to pay for his neutering as it stated they would in his adoption contract. Because of this, he wasn't welcome in any doggy daycare, agility, or around any other dog facility because I had no proof of his vaccines and he wasn't fixed. For the best, since he in the end likely had no shots. This took a huge toll on his socialization since there weren't many options for him aside from seeing dogs on walks occasionally and saying hello. During these times he was rowdy but not too aggressive, though he did always try to act dominantly and mount other dogs, but I had assumed it was because of him not being neutered. But he always barked excessively at people. At a little over a year old he finally got neutered and I was excited to finally be able to go to the local agility facility, doggy daycare, etc., but disaster struck. While on a walk someone had left their gate open and as we walked by their 2 dogs attacked us. My boy fought them off until the owner could pry them off him. Ever since he's wanted nothing to do with anyone outside my home. No dogs, no people. Anyone that gets near gets charged at. I tried my best to teach him that the world wasn't out to get him, but that event combined with his already anxious nature I think solidified his reactivity. Heartbroken, I switched to biking laps through close-by alleyways to get my dog his exercise rather than agility. This allowed him to run but not encounter any people or dogs. But after this most recent harsh Canadian winter he has no interest in running and only wants to go on sniffing walks. I want him to get to experience a wide range of smells, but I'm scared to take him too far from home. Both because his reactivity and my own anxiety about being far from home. Now, a bit about me. I'm on disability due to my shoddy mental health, mostly unbearable social anxiety. This means I can spend all day with him when I'm not too depressed to move and too exhausted from my medications to wake up, but also makes it really hard to walk him. We play games inside, do trick training every meal, and he chews raw femur bones to try to enrich him as much as possible, but I worry it's not enough. He's never tired enough to settle down and will only relax when he's in his kennel. He's been like this his whole life. Some days I just can't manage the extra toll of taking care of this dog. I know he spends too much time in his kennel, I know he needs more exercise, but some days I just cannot manage it. I feel like he would live a more fulfilling life with someone who knows how to manage a dog like him and is more active, but I also know his chances of finding someone like that around here are slim to none. Is it better for him to live in non-perfect conditions, or should I try to find him a better place? I worry he would attack someone and be put down. And no, just do better is unfortunately not an option. I'm doing the best I can manage. TLDR. I struggle a lot with anxiety and depression, which makes caring for my high-energy reactive dog extremely difficult, but he's also highly reactive and aggressive to new people. I want him to have the best life, but I'm not sure he could go anywhere else. Great comment 1. The short answer is yes, you are his best chance. Great comment 2. He is lucky to have you. That look in the picture is pure love and trust. I also struggle with a highly reactive shelter dog, and my picture for our lives hasn't gone the way I wanted it. I don't have a lot of advice, just wanted to say I see you. Great comment 3. My dog is on Prozac and it has made a huge difference. Her issues aren't as severe but still reactive due to anxiety and socialization issues. If you can afford it, there are good trainers out there that can help. There are bad trainers too. I think I would start with positive reinforcement only to build his confidence. Punishment while feeling anxious might change behavior, but they will be complying out of fear. Despite my objections, my wife bought a dog to fulfill our daughter's dream. Now I'm the bad guy if I have to send it away. We've been married for 12 years. Before that, we dated for 2.5 years. I am the owner of a technology repair shop in a major US city. It's not part of any large chain, just an independent business. I opened it in my mid-20s just about a year before I met my now wife. We have a daughter, 10F, and she is our only child. For this story I'll call my daughter Erica. Erica really wants a dog. For the past 2 years she has been begging my wife and me to get one, specifically a Labrador. She says that it is her dream to own one. Whenever she asked me, I told her that we can't afford it, we seriously can't. We spend around 90% of our earnings on food/bills/mortgage. My wife is a teacher, so while her salary definitely helps us stay afloat, it's not enough to have extra luxuries. I also told her that most dogs, including Labradors, need to be walked every day and cared for often. She said that she'll be able to handle it, but every kid who wants a dog says that same line, and I don't think we have enough spare time, money, and energy to dedicate to another living thing in our house. Money is tight. My wife disagrees. She says that we should let Erica get a Labrador if she really wants one. She claims that Erica has good grades in school, mostly true, she doesn't ask for much, debatable, and that it's Erica's dream, true. She's not lying, but we just can't afford it. A few weeks ago, my wife was nagging me that this quarantine would be the perfect time to get Erica a dog, and she would have so much time to bond with it since she's not going to school. So I sat her down and talked about the finances. I explained that it costs, on average, several $1,000s per year to own the breed Erica wants. We don't have that much disposable income. My store has also taken a massive hit from this whole event. My insurance didn't cover anything at all. Fuck them. Also, who would walk the dog every day? Erica is too young to go out by herself. I certainly don't want to, and I don't think my wife will want to either. After I discussed this with her, she seemed a little uneasy about it but agreed. This past weekend, it was my turn to go to the supermarket to buy groceries. Between the driving, parking, and actual shopping, it took around 3.5 hours. I drove home and unloaded the bags into our mudroom. I then started picking them up to lift to the kitchen while my wife helped. When I was carrying up my first bag, I got into the kitchen and what do I see? A fucking Labrador sitting there staring at me. I was absolutely shocked and livid. What the hell did you do? I yelled at my wife. I told you we can't afford a dog. My wife explained that she got a dog because Erica really wanted one. Erica even named the dog already, Riley. My wife explained that she had been researching local animal shelters behind my back for the past few weeks, not once asking or valuing my opinion on any of this. I'm furious. How did you adopt a dog and get the pet supplies that quickly? I asked. It turned out that she didn't actually buy anything except 3 bags of dog food and 1 food bowl. No bed. No leash. No toys. So she got a dog but not anything else you need to actually own a dog. I told her that this was ridiculous. We literally cannot afford to own any pet. She told me that I was being bossy and rude. She is an adult, so if she wants a dog, why can't she buy one herself? These are supposed to be mutual decisions. I told her that we had to agree on this together because it's such a large purchase. I told her that we had to send him back to the shelter immediately. The thing is, Erica seems so connected to Riley. She loves her, and the dog is very playful already, despite only being home for 4 days. Erica has been asking for a dog for so long. If she finally got one and then has it taken away from her just a week later, she would be absolutely devastated. I told Erica what will have to happen, and she broke down immediately. She says that if I return the dog, she will never speak to me again. I kind of understand where Erica is coming from, but I just can't afford the dog. I talked to my wife again about this. She told me that the dog is staying no matter what. I'm shocked about how little planning and how much deceit has gone into this. She already paid a $175 adoption fee without asking. Riley has nowhere to sleep, she just sleeps on the floor, and no toys to play with. My wife and I will not be able to give her adequate care because we just can't afford it, especially during a national crisis. If Riley ever had a health issue and we needed to visit the vet, we probably wouldn't be able to afford it, and even if we could, it would be just barely and we'd have to give up something else we wanted. I do not want a dog and I do not have the means to care for one. However, there is a dog in my house right now. I have no idea what to do, and I will be fucked over no matter what decision I make. Reddit, please help me do what is best for my family. Great comment 1. Getting a dog is a double-edged sword. You gain a lot of comfort but do spend a lot more. You have to have somewhere you can cut corners, and that could be games for your daughter, annual trips/vacations, clothing only from Goodwill and discount retailers, and second-hand products from Facebook/Craigslist. You need to sit down both your wife and daughter to discuss everything you will be cutting out, and you need to do this quickly. Explain to your wife that she will now need to find another income to help support the family, and not a multi-level marketing/make my relative buy stupid shit job. An Etsy store for something she can make, Picking up an essential job that is on opposite hours you work, mowing lawns, anything that can bring in extra income. Suddenly, time to show your daughter what responsibility is. You will need to explain to your daughter that she has to do extra things now. She must walk with you every time you walk the dog. Get her up in the middle of the night if the dog has to go out. If she's playing video games / talking with friends / watching TV, she has to stop and go out. Set these rules up front with her. You will have to have your daughter train the dog for 1 hour per day. Sit her down and watch YouTube videos on training. Kiko Pup and Zach George are the best you can watch on there. Set expectations of what your daughter will be responsible for, and how much time she will need to invest every day. Third, proper training and respect. If the dog gets aggressive / possessive, never, ever hit the dog. Not even smacking / grabbing the snout, smacking the butt, anything like that. You're treating anger with anger if you do that and will reinforce the behavior. If this ever starts to happen, prepare to invest in proper training, not PetSmart training. Honestly, as an upfront cost, professional training is worth every penny. For proper puppy training it should be about $600 to $800. You will get a really good damn dog back that you won't have to worry about chewing furniture, peeing inside, eating things they shouldn't, and knowing proper commands. For a dog over a year, professional training will run you $1,000 to $1,800 depending on where you live. All in all, having a dog helped me get over a lot of mental health issues, kept me in more, stopped me from drinking as much as I did, and taught me many life lessons. You may need some help from friends, family, and whatnot for second-hand items, but the dog community is close to each other. Also avoid dog parks, they're dangerous for pets, just Google it. Great comment too. It's not fair to the dog if it isn't getting proper care. I can see you know that. But do you and your wife and daughter all agree what proper care entails? Feeding, training, potty training, cleaning up messes, picking up poop outside, grooming, all of it your daughter needs to be taught how to do if the dog stays for any length of time. The money is between you and your wife. Could beach sorry we can't afford those snacks anymore, all the way to hate me if you want, but this dog needs better than what we can provide. Work out the money, find additional income sources, get rid of the dog, do what you gotta do to survive, man. I don't envy your position in the slightest. Whatever you do isn't going to be easy. I feel for your daughter as I remember my first dog, that Dad didn't like. She slept in my bed. She was a little dog though, I was 6 when we got her, I think. I imagine I would feel and say things like your daughter is saying if I were in her place, but I also knew we could afford the dog and I had to help care for her. If it were framed as the dog isn't getting what it needs and I can't provide more, so unless someone else can provide these things for her lifetime, it's selfish to keep it. I would have been horribly upset, but I could see understanding that. Best of luck to you, man. Also, labs get big fast and training is important in those developmental years. So a decision better be reached soon.